Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. So just as I started this reading, a crow chord just before I press record, which feels significant. I think it's saying anything that's part of the reading, anything that happens in the reading is part of the reading, because I was actually in my head just kind of thinking about how it's like really stormy weather, and I know there's kind of like Hurricane Ian is a thing and things like this. So I don't know if perhaps stormy weather is my intuition is going crazy, guys. There's going to be stuff coming through in this reading as I'm speaking, so I'm sorry if I interrupt myself a lot. I wasn't even planning on doing your reading today, and I just kind of like suddenly got all this intuitive stuff and jumped up and I was like, right, it's time to do Taurus's reading apparently. So gosh, they're giving me so much. Okay, so the stormy weather, it's like it's the setting for your reading, Taurus. Now you're getting things about books. I don't know if some of you are writers or if there's something about looking a book, some kind of reference book, or even if you are particularly religious, perhaps like the Bible or something like this. There's something like the book is significant for your reading. Now, originally this came through, I didn't realize it was for you last night. I've got this set of kind of like cards that I was creating last night with all things that I normally meet when I'm doing meditation. So when I do meditation and I get these kind of visions, the kind of motifs that I run into, and I've been using this kind of, or developing this as a system to help me with my meditations and to help me communicate with my own guides and develop my own set of cards with their own meanings that I understand because they're something that's coming like from within me. So last night I was about to meditate and I was like, okay, what should I focus on? And they gave me the book and the throne, which feels, actually, I didn't realize at the time, but when I got your card out from the tarot, which is the Hierophant card, which has this feeling of tradition and authority. You know, if you just look at the image, this guy on the throne, right, is, or a seat of power, if you like. And with it being the Hierophant, it's like he probably would have a book, right? If you think about like monks and things, you know, historically they were all tasked with like copying down stories. So a lot of the old stories that we have, a lot of the because I studied classics and I studied kind of like Shakespeare, so I'm very familiar with those periods of like the Renaissance and, you know, the way that, you know, these kind of religious like closet, is closet I feel like closet is a word to do with the church. Is there a closet in a church? That word kind of popped into my head. That could be something for somebody, but it's like these kind of closeted, cloistered, that's the word I was trying to get. Monks would sit there and kind of laboriously copy out all these old manuscripts into kind of like the illuminated bound text that we have now. So again, illuminated manuscripts, they could be illumination coming to you, like realization through a book, something like this. Now I'm also kind of getting fairy tales. Now, again, I have to confess, I'm reading currently at the moment Stephen King's fairy tales. I've been a little bit guarded about saying this on readings. I think I've referred to it a couple of times, but I'm trying to be quite, I don't know why. Why am I being quite guarded about this? It originally came through, unbeknownst to me, in a Libra Aquarius reading. So I had a Libra Aquarius reading where I was getting all this stuff about fairies, fairy tales. I even got the Brothers Grimm out and kind of read a chapter from the Brothers Grimm, which I think I did it on camera. I'm not 100% sure now, but I kind of flicked through this book at one point and kind of like stopped on a page, and it was this story about this girl who kind of went into this fairy tale realm. Again, if you want to read this Stephen King book, if you've not read it yet, if you're not familiar with the story, I'm being very careful about not doing too many spoilers for the book, at least not intentionally. I don't know, I have to really put in like a disclaimer here, like I don't know what my guides are going to tell me, and I do predict things. So I have been getting messages kind of off camera, and then it's stuff that, you know, I immediately run into in the book. If you're planning on reading that book or you're midway through it, there may be spoilers in this reading. I can't help it. I don't know what I'm saying when I'm saying it. And at the time when I did that Libra and Aquarius reading, I didn't know, I don't think I even knew about the Stephen King book at that time, or at least consciously I didn't realize what I was reading, like what I was channeling. And so I did that reading that was all about fairy tales, and I think then I came off camera, and I think I went on Twitter or something, and I saw that there was this new Stephen King book called Fairy Tales, and I was like, oh my god, that's what I've been channeling. So then I kind of like went off and went on a mission to go and buy it. Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to read this book. And so I'm reading it, and I think I'm about page 330 now. Again, I want to tell you where I'm up to, because I want you to know where I've read up to, in case it's like I start to do spoilers for it and I'm not aware of it. I don't know what I'm saying, right? And when I'm doing these readings, it's fascinating. But I think I'm up to page 329, 330. So anything beyond that, I don't know, right? I feel crazy again. Okay, so yeah, so fairy tales, and it's not like Cinderella, right? It's more like traditional fairy tales from kind of Bavaria and Russia and the Black Forest, that kind of area, like Eastern European kind of Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen type dark fairy tales, which is what they originally were before they became, you know, Disneyfied. And Stephen King is definitely kind of like pulling on that for the inspiration for this book that he's telling. And again, I'm going to be very careful about not intentionally doing any spoilers for that book. So last night I kind of was trying to meditate, and I was getting this message of the book, and I was like, I really feel like I'm supposed to continue, because I kind of read up to about page 170, I think, and I kind of put it down and got distracted. I kind of did other things, and so I was like, right, I need to go back to this book. I need to continue reading it. So I've been a bit poorly, and I've kind of been reading through it. And I really enjoy it. It's a really good book. And I think another factor in me getting this book was that I have read a few Stephen King books in the past, and a favourite of mine, which is one of his less grown-up ones, is The Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon. And I love that book. And my mum as well. You know, it's very personal to me, like Stephen King novels, because my mum was a huge Stephen King fan, especially his like earlier books, and she would have Stephen King books lying around her bedroom all the time. And so I think I've read Pet Sematary, and like little bits of other ones. And I've probably read a few over the years, but it's one of those things, it's like, I don't know how much of each one I've read. But yeah, so Stephen King. And yeah, so reading this book again, it's like reconnecting with my mum. I'm even wearing like my mum's dressing gown, which sounds a bit like a bit dark. My mum's passed away, but it's like I feel really connected to my mum as I'm kind of reading this new Stephen King novel, like wearing her dressing gown. I don't know, it's really personal, but it's what's coming through to talk about in your reading, and I feel excited to talk about it for some reason. So anyway, so Taurus, the reason why I'm suddenly doing your reading now is because I was about to meditate again, and I was like, right, give me something to meditate on. And before I say this, actually, what was popping into my head at the time reading this Stephen King novel was, and again, this isn't particularly a spoiler, but I was getting the scene from Wayne's World where he has the torch and he's trying to, I mean, this could be something about Halloween, right? But he's got the torch and he's trying to scare Garth, and he's going, oh, where's my pot of gold? You're my lucky charm. And all this kind of like, sorry to the any Irish people watching me. But yeah, so that kind of stereotypical kind of leprechaun type character. I'm the leprechaun, which I think is that anything to do with Stephen King? I know that's an old movie, right? I'm the leprechaun. Anyway, so I was channeling this kind of like leprechaun, kind of goblin-y type like joke, right? And then I got myself some cards, and what came out was not the leprechaun, but the swan and the princess. And I thought that's really fascinating, because if I do it like this, it's like it's telling me the swan princess. And I was like, I know the swan princess, that's a thing. I know those words put together in that way is a thing. So I did Google it, and it was a set of movies, very Disney-like, but that I haven't actually watched. I've never watched these movies, and they're based on Swan Lake, but they're slightly different. So the girl is called Odette, but I think the actual storyline is a little bit different, and I'm gonna read to you the kind of plot summary, again, I'm sorry, there might be spoilers in this set of readings. I'm sorry, I can't, whatever's coming through is coming through, right? And I just feel like I'm meant to just give you this information for some reason, Taurus. It's like, listen, this is the information coming through for you, especially because books are in my head kind of the realm of the Hierophant, right? It's like the Hierophant symbolizing things like church and religion and history and knowledge. You know, a book is particularly symbolic of that. So I feel like it's definitely intended for your reading. If this is collectively a collective Taurus energy thing, or whether it's personal to you on a personal level, I don't know. I'm just going to give you the intuitive information as I'm getting it. So the plot for The Swan Princess, which is a 1994 film. King William and his friend Queen Alberta both have a child. Alberta has a son named Derek and William has a daughter named Odette. At the celebration of Odette's birth, the two make a plan to have them meet and spend every summer together in the hopes that they fall in love and marry. The Hierophant is a card about marriage, so that they can unite their two kingdoms forever. Meanwhile, King William's Chancellor, Sorcerer Sir Rothbart, plans to take King William's kingdom for himself by mastering a type of dark magic known as the Forbidden Arts. However, which is interesting to me because just as Aries was being backed up by the universe, you know, Aries was in the seat of power being backed up by, you know, religion. I was talking about this in their reading. It's like your reading is being backed up by this magician energy. And of course, the magician is a card related to Gemini, whose reading I'm doing next. So it's like what's behind Aries is Taurus. What's behind Taurus is Gemini. You've got this interesting folded narrative going on this week. However, William discovers his plans and Rothbart is arrested. Despite calls for his death, King William spares Rothbart's life and banishes him forever. Before leaving, Rothbart swears revenge on King William, that he'll get his powers back and claim everything William has as his own. William and Alberta, so the King and Queen, put their plan into action. Fortunately, this fails as Derek and Odette hate each other as children, but when they reach adulthood, they do fall in love. However, Derek can't think of anything besides Odette's beauty, and that's what he loves her for, causing her to reject him. I should say I'm reading this off Wikipedia, just, you know, so to give credit. And she and her father leave disappointed. So Odette doesn't want him, although she's beautiful, and yes, it's flattering to be loved for what you look like, you know, beauty can be a curse as well, because it's like beauty is the curse of women and money is the curse of men, because if you're a beautiful woman or a rich man, you know, it's almost as though, does the person really love you for who you are, or do they love you for you know, that surface level beauty or surface level money? It's kind of that old question coming up again. On their journey home, they are ambushed by Rothbart, who gives his powers back and transforms into a great animal, kidnapping Odette and fatally injuring William, so her father. Derek the prince arrives on the scene, and the dying William tells him about the great animal, and it's not what it seems, and that Odette is gone. After searching and finding no sign of Odette, the entire kingdom assumes that she is dead. Alberta tries to encourage her son to find another princess, but Derek is determined to find Odette, believing that she's still alive somewhere. So he does love her. He just had the wrong focus, right? He was focused on her beauty. Derek and his best friend Bromley practice hunting every day in preparation to face the great animal, with help from Alberta's valet, Lord Rogers. Elsewhere, Rothbart is keeping Odette captive at the mysterious Swan Lake. After she refuses to marry him, he has cast a powerful spell that turns Odette into a swan during the day, while she can temporarily return to her true form at night if she stands on the lake where the moonlight touches it. During her captivity, right, I don't think that's important, her friend Puffin and Odette, in her swan form, fly together to find Derek. By chance, they stumble upon him in the woods as he is searching for the great animal. I think there's a danger, right, as well. Like, yeah, Derek mistakes Odette for the great animal, having deduced that the creature is a shapeshifter, and he tries to kill her. So that's the thing as well, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I used to get all this stuff about, like, the hunter and the doe. And it was like, I remember this one reading where it was like the hunter had killed a doe, but like had looked into its eyes and recognized like the doe's soul, and the doe then became this kind of Patronus. So it feels like that story kind of coming back in this reading in some sort of way. The ensuing chase leads Derek to Swan Lake, where he witnesses Odette reverting to a human when the moon arises. The two share a loving reunion, and Odette tells Derek that to break the spell, he must make a vow of everlasting love and prove it to the world. So true love, right? Derek invites Odette to the ball at the castle the following night, hoping to declare to the world of his love for her. After Derek leaves, however, Rothbart arrives, having heard the whole conversation, and tells Odette that she will never make it to the ball, for there will be no moon on that night. To make matters worse, Rothbart transforms his cheerful hag sidekick, Bridget, into a doppelganger. So remember this, because this I feel comes up in your actual cards that I've pulled for you. So as to fool Derek to make his vow to the wrong woman, which will kill the real Odette. So it's a little bit like the ending of The Little Mermaid, right? And you do have a bit of mermaid imagery in this reading as well, where the sea witch steals Ariel's voice and, you know, tries to get the prince to marry her instead, as kind of like posing as Ariel. On the night of the ball, Rothbart imprisons Odette in swan form in the dungeon of his castle, along with Bromley, who he has found in the woods the other night, while the disguised Bridget arrives at the ball and dances with Derek, who is unaware of her true identity. That feels a bit like Cinderella as well, right? Meanwhile, Puffin's Odette's friends free her from the dungeon through... I'm just going to skip some bits. And she flies to the castle to warn Derek, but it's too late. Derek has made the vow to the wrong woman. So I don't know if somebody feels like they've entered into a commitment or even a marriage with the wrong woman. I feel like I'm kind of reading from the guy's perspective, but take it as it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. Just then, Rothbart, but then again, that's the thing, right? Will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? If he loves Odette and only knows her for her physical form, you know, then the joke's on him if he's going to marry the wrong woman who turns out to be a witch, right? It's like, there's a lesson in that. There's a lesson for true love is loving the soul of a person and not to be kind of hoodwinked by the physical form. Realising his mistake, Derek follows Odette back to the Swan Lake, where she finally transforms back into her human form one last time. As he holds Odette in his arms, she tells Derek that she loves him before finally dying. So there's something about love and death coming through. A heartbroken and furious Derek confronts Rothbart, demanding he undo the spell, and Rothbart promises to do so, but only if Derek defeats him. Rothbart transforms into the great animal, and a battle ensues in which he overpowers Derek. However, Odette's animal friends retrieve Derek's bow, and Bromley, who has escaped the dungeon, provides Derek with a single arrow, with which Derek shoots into Rothbart's heart, killing him. Afterwards, Derek tearfully confesses his love to Odette, realising that it's the person Odette has become that he loves, and she comes back to life. The spell on her is broken, so they get like a happily ever after. So I don't think the original ballet Swan Lake has a happy ending, but I don't know, maybe somebody's watching The Swan Princess, maybe somebody's life is reflecting this movie in some sort of way, perhaps a little bit less magical, but you know, the similar things of perhaps somebody being tricked, or you know, perhaps somebody marrying someone for the wrong reasons, perhaps marrying for somebody's physical appearance when actually they're recognizing that they get on better as a kind of soulmate with, you know, somebody's character, something like that. What's fascinating to me as well is on the bottom is the prince. So yeah, what also kind of prompted me to run and do your reading and just know that intuitively I was being given something. The Swan Princess made me think, especially with me getting the leprechaun and goblin stuff, of a book that I own, which is a book that I found in a charity shop, and I kind of it's really, really old and scruffy looking, but I kind of like really old and scruffy looking books. So it's this Princess and the Goblin book by Judge MacDonald. I like how old it is. I like how kind of 20p, guys, like 20p for this absolute beautiful book. Look at this. So come in, my dear, I'm glad to see you. That reminds me as well, on the spine of this book it says, when he spoke it was again hard to believe that I hadn't stepped into a storybook and become one of the characters. Hello, young prince, I've been expecting you. Come in, my dear, I'm glad to see you, said the old lady. Isn't that fascinating, that parallel? I didn't realise that until just now, by the way. So I did the same thing as when I did that Libra and Aquarius reading, where I kind of opened a book randomly and kind of found and just was open to whatever it wanted to tell me at that time. I like, look at this, it kind of looks like Rumpelstiltskin, right? Maybe it is Rumpelstiltskin, I don't know, I haven't actually read the book. So just to kind of flip this open, and I'm using Gemini's card here to kind of hold it open, the Lovers, so again, Lovers could be something. So I've opened it to chapter 8, the Goblins, and again, this is fascinating to me that I was channeling this kind of, I'm the leprechaun, you know, you're my lucky charm. I don't think he says that, but I was hearing, you're my lucky charm. And I open it to the chapter that's titled The Goblins. So it says, for some time Curdie worked away briskly, throwing all the ore he had disengaged on one side behind him to be ready for carrying out in the morning. He heard a good deal of goblin tapping, but it all sounded far away in the hill, and he paid it little heed. Towards midnight he began to feel rather hungry, so he dropped his pickaxe, got out a lump of bread in which in the morning he had laid in a damp hole in the rock, sat down on a heap of ore and ate his supper. Then he leaned back for 5 minutes rest before beginning his work again, and laid his head against the rock. He had not kept his position for 1 minute before he heard something which made him sharpen his ears. It sounded like a voice inside the rock. After a while he heard it again. It was a goblin voice. There could be no doubt about that, and this time he could make out the words. Hadn't we better be moving? It said. A rougher and deeper voice replied, there's no hurry. That wretched little mole won't be through tonight, if he work ever so hard. He's not by any means at the thinnest place, so they must be talking about Curdie. I assume Curdie is some kind of human. I don't know. But you still think the load does come through into our house, said the first voice. So again, this is completely out of context. I don't know the context of this situation other than the inference of it. Yes, but a good bit farther on than he has got to yet. If he had struck a stroke more to the side just here, said the goblin, tapping the very stone, as it seemed to Curdie, against which his head lay. So they're kind of on the other side of the rock, right, on the other side of the wall. He would have been through, but he's a couple of yards past it now, and if he follow the load, it will be a week before it leads him in. You see it back there a long way. Still, perhaps, in case of accident, it would be as well to be getting out of this. Helfer, you'll take the great chest. That's your business, you know. So there's something here that's really standing out to me intuitively about overhearing a conversation. So something that would have took you a long time to understand or to get through, or some hard work that you had to do, and perhaps actually going in the wrong direction. But overhearing somebody talking about you is actually giving you the heads up of like, you could do it more easily, or like you're actually almost there, you know. So it's like eavesdropping on a conversation against somebody who perhaps has ill intent towards you, but it's actually giving you like a heads up almost. So, yes, Dad, said a third voice, but you must help me get it on my back. It's awfully heavy, you know. Well, it isn't just a bag of smoke, I admit, but you're as strong as a mountain, Helfer. You say so, Dad. I think myself I'm all right, but I could carry 10 times as much if it wasn't for my feet. That is your weak point, I confess, my boy. Ain't it yours too, Father? Well, to be honest, it is a goblin's weakness. Why they come so soft, I declare I haven't an idea. So that stood out to me intuitively as somebody could have some kind of Achilles heel. And again, it could be somebody's telling you about their Achilles heel, like without realizing. And it doesn't have to literally be feet or like, you know, a literal Achilles heel, but the Achilles heel, if you don't know that metaphor or terminology, it's just somebody's weakness. Especially when your head is so hard, you know, Father. Yes, my boy, the goblin's glory is in his head. To think how the fellow up there, up above there, have to put on helmets and things when they go fighting. Haha. But why don't we wear shoes like them, Father? I should like it, especially if I've got a chest like that on my head. Well, you see, it's not the fashion. The king never wears shoes, but the queen does. Yes, but that's for distinction. The first queen, you see, I mean the king's first wife, wore shoes, of course, because she came from upstairs. And so when she died, the next queen would not be inferior to her, as she called it, and would wear shoes too. It was all pride. She's the hardest in forbidding them to the rest of the women. So I wonder if that's true or if that's just like their gossip and hearsay. I'm sure I wouldn't want to wear them. No, I'm sure I wouldn't wear them. No, not for that I wouldn't, said the first voice, which was evidently the mother of the family. I can't think why either of them should. Didn't I tell you the first was from upstairs? Said the other. That's the only silly thing I ever knew His Majesty guilty of. Why should he marry an outlandish woman like that? One of our natural enemies too. So this is making me think of Aries' reading, because they had something about people gossiping and people disapproving of somebody's choice of wife. So they had this whole thing about Taylor Swift's The Last Great American Dynasty, which was a man who had a lot of money, and he so I think he got divorced and he took a second wife, but everybody disapproved of them. So again, that kind of metaphor, that kind of storyline has come out in both readings so far. Why would he marry an outlandish woman like that? One of our natural enemies too. I suppose he fell in love with her. Pooh-pooh, he's just as happy now with one of his own people. Did she die very soon? They didn't tease her to death, did they? Oh dear, no. The king worshipped every footmark. What made her die then? Did the heir agree with her? She died when the young prince was born. How silly of her. We never do that. It must have been because she wore shoes. So they've got this weird obsession with shoes and feet. So I don't know if somebody's got like a foot obsession, like foot fetish, or a strong dislike of feet. I don't know that. Why do they wear shoes up there? Now that's a sensible question, and I will answer it. But in order to do so, I must first tell you a secret. I once saw the Queen's feet, without her shoes. Yes, without her shoes. No, did you? How was it? Never you mind how it was. She didn't know I saw them. And what do you think? They had toes. Toes? What's that? You may well ask. I should never have known if I had not seen the Queen's feet. Just imagine. The ends of her feet were split into 5 or 6 thin pieces. Oh, how horrid. How could the king fall in love with her? So there's this not understanding, right? Not understanding different customs, perhaps, different physical attributes, and somebody falling in love with somebody, perhaps even beyond their physical appearance, and somebody not knowing why. So all these kind of themes are coming up with your reading. Okay, so I've got some Aleister Crowley's Mirror of the Soul cards to kind of give me more information about kind of what's going on, what is the message of this reading. And we've got lust and we've got luxury. Now, it does have that feeling of Taurus, you're ruled by Venus, and with you being the earth sign, ruled by Venus, because Libra is also ruled by Venus, but they're more airy. You are this kind of earthy version of Venus energy, which does come with sometimes overindulgence, luxury, indulgence, satiation, and those kind of things, like enjoying things, but enjoying things to extremes. So do be aware that that's the dark side of Taurus energy. But it's not necessarily dark. It has that feeling of almost like it's coming through with like a relationship that is so, there's so much love that it's so satiating and so so kind of indulging in this relationship perhaps is fulfilling every need and every desire. So I'm going to actually again read from the books, because I feel like I'm letting the books do the talking today. So like taking myself out of the equation slightly to go for the books. So again, with this Gemini energy, the Magician hanging out there. So lust, this is actually the strength card in the traditional tarot. Leo, passion, multidimensional creativity, talents, strength, integration of animalistic energies, overcoming old fears and conditionings. The traditional name of this card is Strength. Crowley renamed the card because of its meaning. It's funny, I'm trying to read and I can't read. Because its meaning includes much more than the word strength expresses. Lust means much more than vital strength. It also includes the joy in and the enjoyment of that strength. It also means passion. A woman sits on the back of a lion. In her right hand she holds the Holy Grail, which is inflamed with the fire of love and death, and raises it to the heights. This card is a representation of divine intoxication, divine ecstasy, divine madness. The woman appears intoxicated. The lion is also inflamed by lust. His 7 heads are those of an angel, a saint, a poet, an adulteress, a daring man, a satyr, and a lion serpent. So there's a lot of imagery here, especially if you were raised in a traditional religion, that you would think of as particularly negative. But I'm going to continue reading because I do believe in like the Carl Jung type philosophy of, you know, the shadow, and how we need to not ignore or suppress our shadow, but we need to shine a light on it and accept the darker parts of ourselves in a way where we are not ruled by it, but we're aware of it and we can moderate ourselves to get to that wonderful golden shadow energy. So very Jungian. But like, I'm going to keep going. But again, whatever you feel coming to this reading, you know, you will have your own ideas, your own perspectives, your own beliefs, your own fears. And I'm really just telling you what's coming through intuitively. And I'm not telling you how to live your life or what to believe in. And I really want to emphasize that. They symbolize different aspects and viewpoints which now unite and meld together as a single perceptive force in one orgiastic experiencing. They are independent of morality and limiting rationalism. The energy forms here expressed here are of those archetypal creative order. The animal, so I think there's an argument this is divine, you know. There's an old Shakespeare or an old early English joke that you find in a lot of kind of early English writing that makes a pun on the word die. So to die in Shakespeare or kind of early modern literature is to have an orgasm, because that's as close as you can get to the divine as a human. So it's an old joke, but you know, if you think about, you know, that those extreme feelings of pleasure and how, you know, it can almost make you have an out-of-body experience, or, you know, it can make you really release things. You know, I've cried, you know, I've really like, I'm getting a bit too personal, but you can have those kind of like very, especially if you're doing tantra, which is mentioned here, you can, you know, I do think it can be really, really good for the soul. So, you know, if you believe in God, then God created our bodies, right, with a purpose. You know, God created our physiology, and to experience what our bodies can do is a form of honoring God, I would argue. Again, if you feel differently, that's okay. We have different beliefs, and that's all right, you know. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, right? I'm not trying to break anyone out of, you know, some structured way of thinking if that works for them. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not challenging any kind of religious authority. I'm just going to read from the book. The animal within is not tamed and integrated through struggle and repression, but through affirmation and surrender. The strength you give in this process helps you to overcome old fears, so remember fears, and restrictive conditioning, represented by the folded hands and the faces of saints seen dimly in the background. And again, I feel that's very Carl Jung and the shadow, which please do read. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go and look it up and just explore that idea. I think especially in terms of if you think about Victorian society and how traditional Victorian society was, but how those repressed desires came out in horrific ways, because they were so suppressed, you know, they became something that was monstrous. where you could look at a healthy society. I think now we have quite a healthy society in terms of education, sex education, you know, and the personal freedom, personal liberties to have that kind of control over our own bodies in certain cultures where I think those liberties are under threat, I think, by certain traditional like closed-minded thinking, in my opinion. But I think if you look at societies where, you know, that are quite liberal and they do really care about, you know, sex education and ownership of your own body, you know, those societies can be extremely you know, healthy. You know, you can look at the rates, especially if you look at European countries. You know, there's certain European countries that are very, very progressive and very liberal and very, you know, they spend a lot of money on education, and, you know, their rates of infant mortality are lower. You know, they have better rates when it comes to teenage pregnancies, you know, less teenagers becoming pregnant, more teenagers completing education. You know, so you can look at those societies and, you know, you can see the evidence for certain things. I don't know. Anyway, the 10 faintly radiating circles scattered behind the woman and the lion show the fading old moral ideas. Death, like death in pregnancy as well, is reduced in those countries. The 10 faintly radiating circles scattered behind the woman and the lion show the fading old moral ideas, the old moral ideals, which will now be replaced by the fresh ones pulsating at the top of the picture. So I would say restrict, you know, the Hierophant in reverse. This is the same energy. The Hierophant can be upright and the Hierophant can be in reverse. The Hierophant in reverse is oppressive, closed-minded, controlling. The Hierophant in the upright is like a father figure. They are, you know, a symbol of guidance. They are a symbol of education. They are a symbol of belonging. So, you know, I'm not saying anything is good or bad, but you know, you can have one thing that can be both, which I think is anyone, right? We have that capacity to be good or bad. It just depends on how that energy, how that symbol is utilized and implemented. You know, you could have somebody who takes the Bible and uses it for good, or you can have the people who take the Bible and uses it for their own nefarious purposes to control society, or to you know, gain power in a way that is not for the greater good. It's not done in God's name. It's done for a manipulation of that. So just be very, very careful that, you know, you could have two very, very different books, but you could change the cover. You know, you could take the cover off one book and put it on another, and it's not going to be the same book. I don't know, there's something in that, I think. The woman's head is turned completely towards the urn of fire. She is totally absorbed in the energy of transformation inherent in any total and unconscious surrender. This is the secret of Tantra, the awareness that perceives the fullness of each moment and accepts all of life and rejects nothing. And to me, whatever that divine energy is that I know I feel, I associate it with unconditional love, you know. And a lot of the Bible stories that I grew up with, the fables that I was told, did speak of unconditional love and those kind of values of loving thy neighbor, and, you know, the Good Samaritan, and, you know, just being kind to people. He who is without sin cast the first stone. So, like, I think to be close to God, we should all aim for that, dropping the judgment, dropping the comparing ourselves to others, and, you know, trying to force other people to live the way that we live, and, you know, to be symbols of hope and guidance and goodness, and not to try and force anyone into any belief system or behaviors. You know, accept all and reject nothing, I think should be, you know, the the headline of the Bible. Lust reveals its valuable creative potential only when fully tasted. But I'm doing something that I think a lot of people do, where I'm cherry picking the parts of religion that align with my own ideals and my own values. You know, I could be a different person, and I could pick up that book and I could find the most horrific lines that, you know, if I wanted to be a horrific person, I could say, but the Bible supports this. Because we do that. We take these texts, we take these instruction manuals, and we find the bits that back up our own true opinions. And true opinions is a thing. Some of you have heard me say that before. Okay, so lust reveals its valuable creative potential only when fully tasted, savoured and drunk in. Only then can it be understood and implemented in your own process of becoming aware. The way to light passes through all aspects of darkness. Indication: if you are ready to accept all which you find in yourself, you will be able to move through everything with deep sensitivity, awareness, love and understanding. Love and understanding. Madonna song. Question: what areas of your life would you like to live out more fully? What has prevented you from doing so in the past? Are you ready to deal with this anew? Okay, so what's really interesting to me as well is, because I'm using these cards as bookmarks, I've now got the Cancerian card here for the Four of Cups, which is Cancerian energy. It says the moon in Cancer. Sorry about the noises. It's just that time of the day. Moon in Cancer: love, tenderness, care, emotional richness. The pink lotus testifies to the love that we have received from others. This is part of the emotional richness which fulfills us, expressing itself in our environment through beauty and luxury. The ability to accept this in humility and thankfulness reveals an inner fullness which can be shared with others. The golden cups express the wealth of feelings at hand, whose roots are deep in the subconscious. The luxury is a responsibility as well as a gift. Taurus, luxury is a responsibility as well as a gift, and I think the Hierophant in the upright would understand this. It demands measured behaviour and awareness, as well as an ability to enjoy and share. So it's talking about recognising your needs, right? Recognising your own desires, the things that you lust for, but being able to moderate your own emotions around that in a way that is healthy and not overindulgent, and comes from a place of love. It demands measured behaviour and awareness, as well as an ability to enjoy and share, to pass it on to others. The danger exists, and again I feel like this is talking about you know, the shadow with that Jungian philosophy. The danger exists, however, when the emotions take on a life of their own. Moderation is thrown to the winds, and we are driven by the emotion unconsciously. In this case, the clear, pale blue sky darkens and the water loses its clarity. In times of luxury, it's best to be doubly awake, especially in familiar or intimate relationships. An express of devotion and care becomes oppressive. Okay, so where does your love and desire become controlling? You are being given much love and devotion. Enjoy it without becoming dependent on it. Are you in any relationship where you feel restricted? Are you expressly devoted to somebody? So I think, you know, if you're experiencing something that feels like it satiates your every desire, you know, it's so, you're experiencing a love so divine that it's all encompassing, you know, it could be creating codependence, or you know, the symbolism of the devil in the tarot, where it's like you're getting chained to something, you're getting addicted to something. It is possible to be addicted to love, or addicted to beauty, or addicted to anything that you're indulging in. It could be food, it could be partying. I was thinking about this actually with Tauruses that I know. They're such party animals. They do overindulge. It's funny because people talk about earth signs as being very caring and dependable, but if you've ever been out anywhere with a Taurus, you are probably going to be the one carrying them home. I don't know, there's something to that as well, I think. Okay, moving on to your cards. And again, please don't be a hater, because some people really disagree. When you know, people believe in a lot of things, and I don't want to shy away from talking about some more tricky topics like religion, which comes up all the time, and I've just kind of accepted it now because I hate talking about it because it's such a provocative topic, and I don't consider myself to be to follow any specific religion. For me, God, what we call God, what I feel to be that unconditional love, divine energy, which I reach through things like meditation. When I connect to that energy, that just feels like, it feels like, have you ever gone out and felt the sun on your face, and you close your eyes and you see like the glow of the sun, and it's like that feeling of warmth and connectivity and love and safety. That to me is what one religion would call God, you know, and other religions have different names for it, but it's something that is universal. It's something that is omnipotent, omnipresent, all encompassing. It's in everyone and everything. So to me, if God is everything, then God is every religion, which I know some religions say is not the proper way to do it, but I would say I'm going to do it the way that God, that what we call God, I say God, it's just a word, right? That divine energy, I trust that over a book, right? I trust my own intuitive connection to divine energy over anything else, you know. And no human can ever comprehend the vastness that is that energy of everything. So no human is going to be able to speak words to me that are as effective as feeling it in my heart. Okay, so you're reading, and again, I don't think of myself as particularly religious. So Ace of Cups, the Crow, the Galactic Mushroom, the Divine Matrix. So the Divine Matrix, Galactic Mushroom, it really is that awareness of what I've been talking about, of the universe being, or God, the universe, the divine energy, you know, whatever is beyond us, whatever is the beating heart and soul in every single thing, every fly, every flower, every beam of sunlight, every star, every space in between, right? It's like, it's in everything. And to me, it's like a divine machine. It's all running as a series of, like clockwork, as cogs of alignment, right? It's this vast, it's Galactic Mushroom, the Divine Matrix. It's interconnected. It's everything. It's everyone. It's everything, and it has a plan. There's a purpose to this. The Crow can symbolize a messenger from beyond the veil, but it's symbolizing fears today in your reading, kind of like a rising fear or a looming presence that is to be feared. And you have the Ace of Cups, which is, the Ace of Cups to me, it's always brought by the hand of the divine. It's always brought in by the hand of God, and it's normally it can symbolize a relationship, but it's basically it is unconditional love. It is that feeling of love when you boil everything else away and you get down to the basic principle of it. That is what's on offer here. So the Ace of Cups for you, Taurus, or for anyone connecting with this reading, is the opportunity to connect with something that is overflowing with love. You know, all your desires here could be satiated by connecting to this overwhelmingly divine and satisfying energy. But we have this fear with the Crow. So the Galactic Mushroom, like that's kind of what that line is saying to me there. And then the next line kind of expands on this, because you start with the Four of Water, which is a refusal of the Ace of Cups. So this is being offered to you, but I feel like you're perceiving it as a siren, you're perceiving it as a temptress, you're perceiving it as Eve holding the apple, right? Where, so there's a denial of it, there's a refusal of this energy that could be incredibly healing. They're telling me like salt water to a wound. Have you ever found this? I find, you know, when I've been to places like Greece and I've been in the Mediterranean, in the kind of salty water, I don't know what it is about it, like the mix of salt and seaweed and whatever's in that water seems to be incredibly healing to me. You know, I can have injuries and cuts and things, and if I go in that water, I you know, my skin heals up really easily. You know, I suffer from acne and occasionally eczema and things as well, and you know, all of that will go because of whatever's going on with maybe the abrasiveness of the sand as well, and the salt in the water, and the, you know, the little fish that come up and nibble at the dead skin. And it's like, it's the healingness of it. It's like, it's, I don't know, but the Four of Cups is a refusal of this. You know, whenever I thought that I was connecting to these positive relationships in my life, they've always come with strings attached before, so why would I take this again? Or how do I take this? How do I take this without it having strings attached? And so there's this confusion that's happening with many paths. Many paths, it's, and then this higher perspective, right? Needing direction, lost in space, needing direction. So it's, okay, so it's this feeling of, okay, so I'm now connected to this energy. I'm connected to this network, to this God energy, to this higher realm of intuition and emotions. And yeah, I feel like a fish out of water, right? I feel like a small fish in a big pond. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what direction to take. I feel very lost. So lost in space talks about needing to have a higher perspective, or even like an out of body experience, or, you know, witnessing yourself in third person, which I believe the witness is on the bottom of one of the decks. Just kind of dig that out. Yeah, the witness. So like witnessing yourself from a position of higher consciousness, and witnessing your situation in a way where you're removing yourself from perhaps very overwhelming emotions, because this mermaid is under the water. Water always symbolizes to me emotions, and if this mermaid is at the bottom of the ocean, they're very, very deep emotions where the water's closed over your head, right? So it's like in over your head, overwhelmed, being too emotional about this situation. So I want to say with almost, can you see there's like almost like a figure astrally projecting here? It's like when you get up out of the maze of your own emotions, the emotions that you have entangled in this situation, you'll be able to step over. You'll recognize the fact that you don't need to choose a path. You know, when you get that witness consciousness, a higher perspective on the situation, when you step out of your emotions and you look at it from a bird's eye view, where you're looking at the situation from your higher self, right, from the eye of God, right, within you, you'll see that this isn't a maze at all. In fact, it's quite flat now. You know, you can actually just step over. You know, you can take any direction you want. You do not have to follow the directions that perhaps the Hierophant energy or that tradition or culture or, you know, society has mapped out for you. You can go in any direction that you want to go in, is what I think is being communicated there. I'm also seeing lots of fours suddenly, 444. So fours could be particularly symbolic for you at this time. There's a 4 here as well. Then your next set of cards then, I'm just getting them a bit mixed up, sorry. Your next set of cards go like this. So here's the Witch, right? Here's the fear. Here's the fear of making the wrong choice. Here's the fear of being lured in by the beauty. So really this is giving me like almost it's got this double meaning of, you know, Ariel as the Little Mermaid, or Odette as the Swan, right? This genuine love, and then this sea witch energy that is mimicking, like the devil would, right? Like the devil would mimic, you know, people say that, you know, I don't believe in this, but people say that, you know, if you're going ghost hunting and, you know, the bad energies will disguise themselves as a little girl to kind of draw you in. It's like, is this a devil in disguise, right? Is this the sea witch with some kind of glamour spell on them to make me fall in love with their beauty when actually, you know, they're a monster. There's this, but I want to say it's both in the same, and it could be something about your own self, Taurus, like you, the outer you and the inner you. And what's happening? So there's something about these two cards are sort of saying to me like inner and outer, right? So there's a girl inside here, inside the stomach, this kind of egg that's being grown, but it's like flipping and reversing it so that the outside is now on the inside and the inside is now on the outside. There's something about that because of all these I'm not quite sure what I'm getting, but you've got the crow here and then all these different crows around her, which are symbolizing fear to me in your reading, right? Your own fears, perhaps getting over emotional about something, and because you can't think clearly, is your emotions are coming through with a lot of fear, right? Which is overwhelming you and wanting you to shrink and go within, and to, or it could just be talking about situations in general where something's on offer here, but it feels overwhelming to you, which frightens you. You know, it could be that you're on the potential for opening your heart up and letting somebody in, or you could be about to make some kind of emotional offer or an emotional connection. It doesn't have to be love, right? You know, something that's being offered to you that has it's bringing huge emotions out of you, but with those huge emotions, it's like it's making you panic because you're feeling overwhelmed, which is bringing all this fear energy. So it's talking to me about go within, right? Go back within and speak to your higher self, speak to your higher consciousness, meditate on this. The Queen of Cups can completely control her emotions. She's not emotionless like you might find the Queen of Swords can really turn off her emotions and be very, very logical in a kind of clinical way. This is somebody who has those huge emotional waves. You know, she's the goddess of the moon, if you like. She has those strong emotions. She has emotional tides and emotional riptides that are trying to pull her in different directions, and yet she maintains that complete equilibrium, that complete emotional strength and balance, because she's not ruled by her emotions, she rules her emotions. So some of you could be connecting with a Cancer or have strong Cancer placements. For example, Cancer is my North Node. I have very little water in my chart, and yet Cancer is my North Node, and your North Node is your destiny. So it's like what you need to move towards, what you need to accomplish, you know, what you need to embrace and learn about yourself. So for me, being so Libra, which is Queen of Swords, I would often disconnect from emotions. I'd be like, well, that is almost like in the Aquarian way of emotions are something low vibrational. You know, I can see how emotions make people messy. I'm not like that. I'm more logical. I can take a step back and step into that with witness consciousness, but doing so in a way where I would emotionally disconnect from the situation and look at it through pure logic. This isn't that, and this is part of my own learning path, to be able to not see my emotional self, my dramatic self, my diva, my inner diva as this kind of sea witch, but to recognize that I'm talking about this in third person. I don't have dissociative identity disorder. I just talk a lot through personification of the self, you know, a bit like Jung and his anima and animus and things like this. So I call her Catherine, this embodiment of my own Cancerian energy. She's named after Catherine from Wuthering Heights, and she has that kind of over emotional witch energy to her, but that's part of her magic. I now recognize after doing tarot for so long, you know, that kind of the darkness of Catherine, who is my own kind of anima, right? Recognizing that as a part of myself and incorporating it in a way where it's like, it's okay to feel overwhelming anger. It's okay to feel, I don't know, love that is not logical or destructive. You know, it's okay to allow that kind of that part of myself that is ruled by emotions is not logical, to come out, to accept that part of myself rather than turning it off, and to get into that Queen of Cups energy. Like Queen of Cups in the reverse is, you know, this destructive side, but Queen of Cups in the upright, you know, she recognizes her emotions as her power. So instead of feeling something and reacting emotionally, the Queen of Cups will feel something and recognize what she's feeling in a emotional intelligence way, and be like, what can I do here with these feelings that is constructive? So you find Cancerians who are brilliant artists, you know, who are beautiful songwriters, or like writers, or they write poems, or, you know, they become incredibly compassionate and socially intelligent because they recognize when they see those emotions expressed in someone else, they know that they've felt them before, and they can have that compassion for somebody else. So Cancerian energy, if you go back and watch my early Cancer readings, would come through that kind of Catherine energy that would feel very unnatural to me, but through doing the readings, I've really incorporated, you know, I've really seen the strength in that energy, and I've really seen the beauty and poetry of that energy, and incorporating it rather than turning it off. And I feel like, Taurus, there's a lesson for you here in embracing everything that we are, all parts of the self, and not fearing your deep emotions about something that perhaps you have a lot of fear around, but accepting that and using it as a source of inspiration and strength, which is actually bringing you into this rapid growth, right? Because it's almost like you're watering yourself from within. You're watering yourself from within, and instead of being fearful of these perhaps emotional ties that you have to people around you, you're starting to strengthen, you're starting to grow, you're starting to expand, you're starting to nurture and develop this emotionally and socially intuitive part of yourself, this seed within you. For some of you, you're literally pregnant. You've got some imagery here about like the emotional seed, a new person entering your life, you know, pregnancy, things, I don't know, a lot of pregnancy imagery. So some of you could just be having a baby, to boil it down to it. So yeah, so your reading actually ends with you gaining this perspective, which is enlightening to you. So this revelation, you've gone from feeling trapped in a maze and fearful to having some kind of higher overview of the maze, and to be able to, again, you've got this feeling of like turning a world in on itself. I feel like somebody else had this once, where it's like instead of viewing, it's like the world's turned itself inside out in a way. It's like it's what was out, you know, all these mazes, all this earth that was on the outside of the world has now folded in on itself. And in seeing it from this inverse view, you have a new perspective on it. You have a new way of moving, because where in the past you were trying to, you know, follow this maze. I'm just wondering now if that does apply to the book that I'm reading. Sorry again for spoilers. I'm trying to be as careful as I can, but again, I do predict, if I'm watching a TV show, or even if it's something that I haven't even heard of, you know, I can do a reading and then I can go, oh, that looks good, I'll watch that, and it can be exactly what I predicted during the reading. So I do have prophetic visions. I do predict things in readings, but quite often it tends to be whatever media I'm engaging with. But I think there's a message in that fairy tale book, and again, just to be very, very careful about not doing too many spoilers, about how I do believe this is something Stephen King plays with, the idea of connected consciousness. You can see this in, if you've watched Dr. Sleep, the idea of connected consciousness, and the creation of our own reality through what we believe in seems to be an idea that Stephen King himself is dabbling with at the moment. And this has a similar feeling of, if we perceive ourselves to be following certain paths and following certain trails in life, where, you know, the structures that we're navigating have already been mapped out for us, when we gain some kind of higher consciousness perspective, when we look at our situation through the eyes of the witness, you know, through that higher consciousness, we can see things. You know, it's like people saying you can't see the forest for the trees. You know, you can't see the woods for the trees. You're now seeing the woods. And not only are you seeing the woods, but you're recognizing that perhaps if you were trying to go a linear route, you can now go a route that is unexpected or circuitous to get to the destination. There's different paths available to you when you stop seeing yourself as something small and trapped, but when you witness yourself as something that is free, like a bird. You have this truth, right? Now, instead of the crow, we have the raven, and the raven to me is where the crow. There's a similarity between the crow and the raven, and I actually have both a crow and a raven in my own deck here. I have the crows and I have the raven. So the crows are symbolic of fear of the unknown, fear of the shadows, fear of the things that are the messages that are coming to you intuitively, fear of your own intuition perhaps. So yes, they are also messengers. Yes, they bring news, but they bring news that may scare you. Where the raven to me is somebody who is so comfortable with their own shadow, with their own darker energies, with those hidden realms, that it becomes, instead of something that is feared, it becomes something that is a source of wisdom and deep truth. So yeah, you're ending the reading with this message of harnessing your fears, of embracing your fears, of exploring your fears and finding really deep inner truths about your own emotional needs, your own emotional capacity, your own emotional strength. And it is coming through with truth and revelation. So make of that reading what you will. Again, I'm not surprised that it should have a religious tone because you are the Hierophant in the tarot, but the reading doesn't have to be particularly religious, right? Whatever you want to take from the reading is fine. Whatever you want to leave behind is absolutely fine. Everybody's going to come to this reading through and see it through their own lens, right? Through their own witness consciousness. You have your own story to tell. You have your own history that you're drawing from. You have your own beliefs. So everything that I say isn't instructional. It's just designed to be a mirror for you to reflect on and take what you need to take at this time and leave what is not for you, right? We don't have to try and correct each other or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to get you a song. I haven't got any songs for you yet. So a song for you for your reading, please. A song to help us understand the meaning of this reading better. What should we take from it? Rockstar, Acoustic by Sofia Karlberg. So again, Sophia is the ultimate female anima. It's the name that Carl Jung gave the fourth female anima. Okay, so there's going to be swears. There's going to be swears, guys. And it does sound like, again, the Taurus people that I know, my Taurus friends, people that I've worked with. I can think of so many Taurians who party really hard and do overindulge. So I don't know where you are. I don't know what flavour of Taurus you are, but I'm just going to read the words. And it is swears, guys, okay? I've been fucking hoes and popping pillies. Man, I feel just like a rock star. All my brothers got that gas and they'll always be smoking like a rasta. Fucking with me, call upon an Uzi and show up. Now them the shotters. When my homies pull up on your block, they make things go rat-a-ta-ta. Switch my whip, came back in black. I'm starting to say, rest in peace to Bon Scott. Close the door, we be blowing smoke. She asked me to light a fire like a Morrison, act a fool on stage. I'd probably leave my fucking show in a cop car. Shit was legendary. Threw a TV out of the window of the montage. Cocaine on the table, liquor pouring. Don't give a damn. Right, well, the lyrics of this song are going to get my my reading rate limited. So if you enjoy my readings, and I know they're long-winded, but if you do enjoy my readings and you want to make sure that you see them when they go live, sometimes if I say certain words in the reading, which happens more often than not, the algorithm on YouTube is going to hide those readings and not necessarily promote them or put them in your feed. So make sure that you have notifications turned on and that you've subscribed if you want to get notified when my readings go live. But like I say, I will get rate limited or view limited for this. Cocaine on the table, liquor pouring, don't give a damn. Dude, your girlfriend is a groupie. She's trying to get in, saying I'm with the band. Now she's acting out of pocket, trying to grab up from my pants. 100 bitches in my trailer say they ain't got a man and they all brought a friend. Oh, I've been fucking hoes and popping pillows. Man, I just feel like a rock star. So it feels very self-destructive. Somebody's really, really enjoying themselves, but they're not being particularly respectful. I don't know. Why do I have this song? I've been in the hills fucking superstars, feel like a pop star, drinking Henny, bad bitches, jumping in the pool and they ain't got no bra, hit her from the back, pulling on her tracks, now she's screaming out no more. They like Savage where you got a 12 gauge car when you've only got 6 cars. 12 car garage. What? Why did I say that weird? When you've only got 6 cars. I ain't caking. How you kiss that? Your wifey says I'm looking like a whole snack. Green hundreds in my safe. I got all racks. LA bitches always asking where the coke at. Living like a rock star, smash out on a cop car, sweeter than a Pop-Tart. You know that you are not hard. I've done made the hot chart. Remember, I used to trap hard. I don't know who originally sang that, Rockstar. But it's a cover by Sofia Karlberg. It's a vibe. Let's get you some advice. You know, and like, no judgment. We all live our lives and learn lessons and make choices. And we're all finding our own way at the end of the day. Where is that? I'm sorry, I've lost my guidance for you. That's not good. Here we go. So it's Gods and Goddesses deck, and again, not to provoke anyone here, it's a lot of deities from a lot of different religions from around the world throughout history. So there's some European stuff in here, there's some Roman stuff, Greek stuff, Eastern stuff, Green Man. So this came out yesterday for Aries. Was it yesterday? When did I do Aries' reading? This came out for Aries' reading. It talks about prosperity and abundance, especially the kind of prosperity and abundance that comes from the earth, from the soil. Advice, please, for... And the Green Man pops up in a lot of different cultures and religions and countries. If you want to go and kind of skip to the end of Aries' reading and find where I talk about the Green Man, you can do that. I don't fancy reading it again. I've done a lot of reading in your reading, Taurus. I'm over it. The same card as well, Eosta, New Beginnings, that came out yesterday in Aries' reading. So I don't know, did I read it? I don't think I read it fully. And Amaterasu, self-esteem, which kind of gives me Aphrodite energy, but we'll see. So where are my books? So they're both female goddesses. Aquarius used to have a theme for their readings for a while where it felt like there was mistrust of empowered women. It was like, oh, if you see a woman who's confident sexually, she must be a whore, was like the feeling that I was getting from Aquarius readings for a while, which was, I feel, corrected through the course of my readings. And know whether people were seeing Aquarius like that, or whether that was something that Aquarius felt and thought, because Aquarius can be a little bit idealistic and a little bit above base things. But it was a closed-minded view, and you do feel like you have a little touch of that in your reading here with this kind of siren energy. It's like, just because somebody is physically attractive and sexually empowered, like the Queen of Wands, does not make them does not make them a bad person. If a woman chooses to have a lot of partners, it does not make her a bad person. You know, we all should have ownership over our own bodies. And on the flip side of that, if you have somebody who, decides that they never want to get into somebody who's ace or arrow, it's like somebody who doesn't want to have sexual relationships, somebody who wants to take ownership of their own body in a way that is almost nun-like, right, where they refrain from those experiences. You know, we all should be able to make those decisions for ourselves and not be judged for them, right? It's our body at the end of the day, nobody else's. And this is not just women either, you know, whatever gender you represent of, you should be able to make your own choices about what you do with your body. You know, if the partners that you're in, you know, having these activities with are consenting and of consenting age, you know, and ability, you know, you should be able to, if everybody's consenting and everybody's willing, you should be able to do whatever you want to do or not. And it's not really for anyone else to moderate that behavior. So I obviously had a judgy tone in my voice as I was reading the lyrics to that song, because that's not my vibe. You know, I do think it's a little bit self-destructive, but at the same time, it's not for me to decide how other people live their life as long as they're not hurting anybody. So it's Eostra. New beginnings. It's time for a fresh start. One cycle ends and a new one begins. Rejoice, a new you emerges. You are blossoming. Eostra is an ancient Germanic goddess of the spring and the dawn. A maiden in aspect, she is depicted as a young woman surrounded by flowers and budding plants, with a rabbit and a bird as her companions. Spring is the time for earth cycles of fertile growth and new beginnings to express themselves. So it's the spring in the southern hemisphere. Maybe somebody lives in the southern hemisphere. The rabbit, of course, is a symbol of fertility, and the bird a symbol of rebirth, as you will see in Esther's mythos. Oh, I'm getting distracted because I'm getting told. So I watched Blonde, which is the documentary or film about Marilyn Monroe. They do take artistic liberties with her story, I feel. But you can see, if you compare some of the relationships she had, particularly a relationship with two men that was a very non-traditional relationship, especially for the time that Marilyn was around in. And again, there are some artistic liberties taken with these stories, but you compare it to the very, very traditional relationship that she had with who's the baseball player? Did he play baseball? I can't summon his name. I can't pull his name out at the moment. But she marries this man who's very, very traditional, and yet he beats her. You know, so you can compare traditional and non-traditional relationships and look at whether or not you think they are examples of a good version of that relationship or not. It's just food for thought. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. You know, you can have any type of relationship and it can be good or bad, you know, depending on the individual circumstances of that relationship. I'm just thinking back to these cards. This is why I'm bringing this up, because there seems to be some kind of rethinking of tradition, rethinking of the way we used to think about things as a society, and whether the way that we use the words that we used to use and the traditions we used to upheld, whether they are currently suitable or not. And that's not for me to say that you are going to modify your belief systems around this, or you are going to modify your ideas, or whether you're going to think, do you know what, I'm going to stick to the old ideas, I'm going to stick to the old way of doing things. Again, it's personal, right? It's your choice at the end of the day, or it should be. Okay. Esther and her rabbit once came upon a small bird dying in the melting snow. It was dawn and very cold. She held the teeny trembling creature in her arms, trying to revive and warm it, but its life was too far gone to save. Feeling love for the creature, Esther transformed the blackbird into an egg, giving it a chance to be born again. That's interesting with the symbology down here, isn't it? Transformed it into an egg to be born again. The Christian church eventually appropriated the festival of Esther as its own festival of rebirth, Easter. The risen Christ replaced the resurrected land and bird. If you have ever wondered where the Easter bunny and eggs fit into the Easter story, the answer is here. The goddess, so I'm just reading from this book, by the way. These are not my own words. I don't actually know this. I'm not an authority on it. It's not my area of expertise. The goddess Esther encourages us to shake off the old and begin to move forward again with growth and fertility in all the aspects of our lives. This may begin with letting go of any part of ourselves we no longer need and planting something new to replace it. In certain times of our lives, we change and reinvent ourselves a lot. And it's this cycle of letting go and becoming something similar yet different that Esther symbolizes. Esther can be called upon to lend her energy to the beginning of a new venture, the start of a new creative project, or even creating a renewed feeling of health within the body. If you've been feeling drained and chaotic, her bright energy is one of hope and surety that things can change for the better. If you've been reading that Stephen King book, you may be thinking of a certain character there. And again, I'm not trying to spoil anything, so I'm going to just kind of leave it there. And again, I'm only halfway through the book, so I don't actually know if, you know, I'm going to carry on reading the book after this reading and probably be like, yeah, that was in the reading, that was in the reading. Okay, you are enough. Build your self-esteem from the inside out. It should build your self-esteem from the inside out. Look at that golden light glowing on her there. I love it when the cards confirm, yeah, like the reading. It's your turn to shine. Be the sunshine in your own life. Amaterasu, the goddess, is the sun goddess of the Shinto faith. I'm sorry if I'm scrambling words. She is one of the most loved of the Japanese deities, and there are many myths surrounding her. Amaterasu lives a peaceful life in harmony with the workings of nature. She shines brightly among the herd of horses and gardens full of silkworms for her weaving. Why can't I get my words out all of a sudden? However, her brother Susanoo is much more disruptive and chaotic. In some versions of the story, I'll kind of show you the names as well, like Susanoo became jealous of his sister and slaughtered her horses and her silkworms. When Amaterasu came upon such a gruesome and shocking scene, she felt so overcome with grief and hopelessness that she retreated to a cave. This left the earth with no life-giving sun, and all grew cold and dead. Do you remember how I was talking about feeling the sun on my face? The earthly plane became a haven for evil spirits, and people began to die from lack of food. The other gods and humans waited outside Amaratu's cave and tried everything to get her to come out again. She refused, never wishing to show her face again. As things grew desperate, Uzumi, Amaratu's sister, had an idea. She began to dance and sing loudly and comically. This brought a roar of approval from the assembled crowd, and their laughter rang across the world. Amaterasu became curious, listening to these lively, happy sounds, and decided to peek out of her cave. Okay, I was just wondering what was underneath the prince. I was wondering if it was the cave. Uzami was prepared and had placed a mirror just outside the cave. When the bright light of dawn that was Amaterasu's energy hit the mirror, the goddess was bedazzled by her own reflection, and Uzami was able to pull her out of the cave. The world again became a better place by her presence, and Amaterasu understood the true worth. Like, isn't that fascinating? Like, the imagery, like her being a representative of the sunlight and being in that cave, it really does have that imagery to it. Amaterasu understood her true worth. Call upon Amaterasu when you are feeling low in self-esteem and when you feel like you are not enough. Amaterasu's very name means to shine in heaven, and this is what the goddess encourages us to do, to let our own light shine. First, we have to understand ourselves a little better and know how truly important we are to those around us and to the world at large. Without building true self-esteem from the inside out, creating a true love of ourselves, we are limited in what we can do. Again, that idea of like physical beauty, like the physical form, and it being more important to love the core of yourself. The effects of low self-esteem can permeate our lives easily. When we do not love ourselves, or when we only rely on others for our love, it is difficult to stay balanced, keep our boundaries, have a healthy body image, and be successful, and simply enjoy our lives to the fullest. We see the effects particularly when we shy away from taking positive risks and growing. Having positive self-esteem means we shine, and that is evident for all to see. But to say, though, that, you know, when you are building your confidence and starting to shine, people around you may not like that. So those people around you who are part of your society, part of your home, part of your culture, if you start to gain in confidence, there may be people who want to control you and stop you from shining brightly because they see your brightness as a threat. So don't ever feel like there's something wrong with you if you're shining brightly from a place of higher consciousness and self-acceptance and divine love. There may be low vibrational people around you who want to keep you trapped and small, and they may try to scare you back into that little box of fear. Don't let them. Okay, I feel like we need another song. Can we get some guidance, please? Can we get some more guidance? Because I'm confused by the song that came through. Can we get some more guidance, please? It may just be giving us Sophia, who's like the epitome of feminine energy, according to Carl Jung. Okay, we got an advert, but I saw the song before it came up. It was Whistle for the Choir by the Fratellis. Whistle for the Choir. I don't want to have to wait for the song to come up. Well, it's a big, big city and it's always the same. They can never be too pretty. Tell me your name. Is it out of line if I was to be bold and say, would you be mine? Because I may be a beggar and you may be the queen. I know I may be on a downer, but I'm still ready to dream. Though it's 3 o'clock, it's just, the time is just the time it takes for you to talk. So if you're lonely, why did you say you're not lonely? Oh, you're a silly girl. I know, I heard it so. It's just like you to come and go. And know me. No, you don't even know me. But you're so sweet to try. Oh yes, you caught my eye. A girl like you is just irresistible. Well, it's a big, big city and the lights are all out. But it's as much as I can do, you know, to figure you out. And I must confess, my heart's in broken pieces and my head's a mess. And it's 4 in the morning and I'm walking along beside the ghost of every drinker here who's ever done wrong. And it's you, woohoo, that's got me going crazy for the things you do. So if you're crazy, I don't care, you amaze me. But you're a stupid girl, oh me, oh my, you talk, I die, you laugh, you smile, you laugh, I cry. And only a girl like you could be lonely. And it's a crying shame if you would think the same, that a boy like me is just irresistible. So I really love that song. I'm going to listen to it after this reading. And I hope you found it helpful. And if not, I hope you found it interesting, and hopefully I haven't triggered too many people talking about religion again, even though I always want to not do that, but it always comes out in the readings. I guess it's tarot, right? It touches on the soul of so many people. So we're going to have that from time to time. All right, friends, take care of yourselves. And I want to say as well, the Swan Princess, it makes me think as well of the story of the ugly duckling. And I forgot to say this at the start of the reading, but it's absolutely coming up again here. So the ugly duckling trying to fit in with all the cute little fluffy golden ducklings and not understanding why she was so gangly and grey, and yet she became this beautiful swan, right? That, you know, was so graceful and so beautiful. And then she found, when she saw her reflection mirrored back to her in the pool and she saw how beautiful she was and she recognized herself as a swan, she was able to find the people that she fit in with, even though perhaps she had been bullied by those ugly, not ugly, but those little ducklings, right? For not being cute, you know. She turned out to be this very regal animal. So I don't know. Take it as it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. Do take care of yourselves. If you're going out partying, Taurus, be aware of your tendency to overindulge. And if you're going to do that, make sure you've got those friends with you who are going to carry you home. I remember coming home with a Taurus girl who got so drunk in a club once that, you know, we had to leave the club a lot earlier than expected. I don't know, she could have been spiked, to be honest, but she was a little bit rock and roll. And I'm not victim blaming there. I'm just saying, like, situationally, she was downing everybody else's drinks. You know, if people didn't want the drink, she was downing it. And, you know, kind of just showing off in that very Taurian rock and roll kind of way of, like, being the life of the party, which people don't appreciate about Taurus enough. But we found her collapsed on the floor of the bathroom and had to pick her up and, you know, take her home. And we had her on the bus, and this creepy guy came and sat next to her. So I was like, in my kind of bubbly way, I was like, oh, hang on, she's my friend, don't worry, you can sit here and sit on your own and I'll sit with next to my friend. I was like, I'm not having you sitting next to my semi-unconscious friend. Yeah, I don't know. So just, if you're going to go out and partying and be in a rock and roll overindulging Taurus, take some sensible friends with you. Take your Libras. Take your Virgos. Virgos can be just as bad, I'm not gonna lie. You know, take the sensible ones who are gonna pick you up off the floor and carry you home and make sure you're safe. All right, take care. I'll see you again soon. Bye, friends.